Good morning, Central Texas. Welcome to KISS Community Connections, 103.1 KISS FM. I'm Phyllis Jones, your host for this morning. And you know what? As usual, I'm not happy because it's getting hot outside. And you all know I can't stand the heat. 85 is it. After 85, I lose my mind totally. I just become this crazy person. But Killeen had their elections. So I want to congratulate all those who won the election. And I want to let the people, citizens, know that it's time to hold them to what they said. It's time to hold all candidates accountable. If they said it, make sure they keep their word. If they don't keep their word, email them, text them, call them, go visit them, and let them know this is what you said, but this is what you're doing. We need to remember that candidates work for us. We don't work for them. We have the power to put them in office. We have the same power to take them out of office. So don't ever let your candidates dictate to you what they're going to do without you having to say so. And also remember, the candidates who said they speak for you and they've never spoken to you, they aren't speaking for you either then. But hold your candidates accountable, and I want to congratulate those that won. This is the month of May. And May is, I found out, Stroke Awareness Month. And more people have strokes than we think they do. And most of the time, the strokes that a lot of people have, they brought on themselves. And I'm just going to say it that way. Because, when you find out that in your family history you have high blood pressure, that doesn't mean you have to have it also. But if you get it, control it. Find out your triggers. Your body lets you know what triggers you have. Your body lets you know what you should and shouldn't eat. And let you know what you should and shouldn't drink. Your body will tell you. It really tells you. But a lot of times we ignore it and just keep on going. And you go willingly into having a stroke. I'm not saying everybody does, but some people's lifestyles, they think that, I can do this, I can do that because I'm working out. Well, not necessarily so. And then you have the invincible people, the 35, I'll say 40 and below, really, they're invincible. Only thing they can catch is a cold or the flu. That's the only thing they can get. I can get a cold, I can get the flu, and that's it. Nothing else happens to me till I'm older. But you know what? Whoever told you that lied to you, because that's not true either. A stroke can happen to a baby, and it's not because of what they ate. That's due to basically hereditary or some imbalance in their body. But a stroke can happen to anyone. To anybody. If you don't take care of your body, it's not going to take care of you, and you're going to defeat your body, and it tells you this is what you didn't give me, so this is what I'm forced to do. And a stroke is one thing that can happen. More people have strokes than we actually think. They do, and it's because we don't pay attention. We don't pay attention. And when someone has a stroke, the one thing you don't ask them that we should is, what was your lifestyle? You need to ask them, what was your lifestyle about before you had your stroke? Not lifestyle as far as what they did, but lifestyle as far as the eating habits. What kind did they have? Did they have high blood pressure and know about it and just say, forget it? Were they diabetic and go, forget it? Or do you have those people who say, well, I'm going to die anyway, so what the heck? But we need to ask them, and we need to start talking more about it, because, the more we know, the more prevention there's out there. Well, a young man wrote our station manager, and he had a stroke at that invincible age. And now what he's trying to do, and I'm not going to say trying to do, what he's doing is making people more aware of the fact that the invincible people can have a stroke. Those who lead the life of the fast-paced, fast eating are susceptible to having a stroke. Those who have high blood pressure, diabetes, and all that in their family can have a stroke, and you can't blame it on your family. I'm sorry, you really can't blame it on your family, because when you watch them go through things, you need to know that could be you. That could very well be you. But after I got an email from our station manager about Mr. Lee Stroy, I called him up, talked on the phone, and I was like, great, cool, So he's going to come on this morning, and he's going to talk to us about having a stroke. And also, he's going to let us know that May is Stroke Awareness Month. So good morning, Mr. Stroy. How are you?
Good morning. Great. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's an honor being on the show this morning.
Of course. Now, before we get into any of this, I'm asked that question because you were in that invincible age. How old were you when you had your stroke?
I was 37 when my strokes occurred.
Okay, I want everybody to remember that he was 37. Okay.
And rather healthy as I thought. And you hit the head nail right on the head about being invincible. But in my case, it's not knowing, and I had the symptoms. It's funny you said that. I had the symptoms before I had the stroke. I was waking up at night, sweating. I was having headaches throughout the day. This is about a month, 2-3 months before I had the stroke. The week before I actually had my stroke, I went to the doctor, and they told me that, hey, I have high blood pressure, and I was supposed to start my medication.
Uh-oh. Did you?
And that's when the stroke occurred. I woke up December 23rd, and I was not able to put my feet down on the ground, and my legs kept slipping. Everything was numb, and I just automatically assumed I may have slept on the wrong side of the bed, and it's just a little numbness. So I was able to make it to my feet, and even with that, I still was having numbness, and I felt a pain on the left side that I never felt before. So I was trying to call out to my wife, and something was wrong because I was calling her name, and it was coming out, ma, 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 ma. Still not aware of what's going on, but I know it's a problem. I don't know how I was able to make it down the stairs, but as I got halfway down the stairs, my wife looked up, and the look on her face, I've never seen that ever in my life. I broke down in tears because I knew something was wrong. And at that point, she called 911. They rushed me to the hospital. They said I had a stroke. So, again, not knowing where I was, what's going on, I'm in a state of confusion. I'm like, okay. So, kind of speeding up the story a little bit, 4 hours later, I was, quote, unquote, back to normal. My speech was normal. I regained my range of motions in my arms, my legs. I was fine. They took me out of ICU. They put me in a room. They were like, you know what, this is a warning. You had a mini stroke. You need to take your blood pressure medication, talk to a nutritionist, change your life, exercise. At the time I was smoking Black and Milds every day.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, quit smoking, just change your life. So I'm thinking, okay, great. So they're like, the greatest gift is going to be you coming home to your family Christmas Day.
But wait a minute.
So I woke up.
Wait, let's stop right there. Not to interrupt. Let's stop. Along with smoking Black and Milds, you were also, how was your eating?
My eating habits, I was working corporate America. So, I was going to Wendy's for lunch. Not calling out restaurants, but I was doing the fast food chain. Every last one of them, just a quick, convenient, get a meal and get back to the desk. And that's a process of, over 15 years of eating that way. Same thing sometimes in the morning. I may stop by and give me a breakfast biscuit and head to the office. Wow. So it was definitely accumulation. And I was not overweight. I'm 6'4", 220 pounds, so it wasn't a weight thing. So in my mind, I'm fine.
Right.
I'm not showing any symptoms of, any health issues.
But you didn't know the symptoms your body was telling you when you had high blood pressure, though.
Well, I knew it was something wrong. I was smart enough to go to the doctor, but I wasn't smart enough to take the medication. Oh. And that's the ego part of it all. You hear about the blood pressures being, all the side effects and everything, where you just think that, okay, I'm all right, I'll just exercise.
Wow. Okay, so there was a couple of things in there. And that but because you're thinking still the invincible age group, right?
I'm thinking invincible also too. I was unaware of what damage I could be causing my body. Okay. And that's the number one thing. And with May being Stroke Awareness Month, I'm glad that you had me on today because being aware is the number one prevention. Now, what you said, certain times, you can do everything and you still can have a stroke. Right. We all are aware of that. But this is something that you can prevent. And being a 3-time stroke survivor, I can tell you it's 1,000 times easier to prevent a stroke than it is to recover from one.
So when you have a stroke, or you or anyone has a stroke, is there a time frame in there where it can be reversed?
Yeah, you have a short window. You have about a 2-hour window time frame when they have the capability to reverse the stroke. In my case, my stroke occurred at night, and a lot of strokes occur during when you're asleep. So they can't determine exactly what time it happened.
Wow. So your first stroke, what happened after you came home?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get home. The 25th came, and I thought it was, great. I'm coming home. I woke up that morning, and my left side was totally droopy. I had a facial droop. I could not open my hand. My hand was balled up in a fist, and I was not able to walk. And, I laid there. The neurologist came back in. They said he had another stroke. He had another stroke, in his sleep. And coming to find out, I had multiple strokes that day. And so that put me in. They stabled me, got my blood pressure under control, and they transferred me to a rehabilitation center a week and a half later.
So what did they do to you mentally? Because you're an African-American male, top, as far as you knew, top of the game, and all of a sudden, boom.
Well, in different phases, it broke me. To be honest, the first year, I was in denial. And after, denial that this can't happen to me, and spending times why, and thinking that if I would have took my medicine, or if I would have just changed my diet, and why me? I was in that boat for the longest of time, and it broke me because of what happens when you have a stroke. It doesn't just affect me. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I have 5 children at the house at the time. So the stroke affected the entire dynamics of the house.
Right, because you work for corporate America.
So that after the second stroke, we went through a lot of different phases in life. Like you said, what happened, it broke me. I had anxiety, I had depression. One of the common things of when you have stroke, especially at night or when you're sleeping, then the hardest thing to do is to go back to sleep again. So I had problems. Now I developed insomnia. Now I have all this stuff going on. And when you have a stroke, the number one thing they tell you is to rest, because your brain has to rest.
Right.
So I'm dealing with all these different things. I went from not taking any medication to have to take 9 medications a day, going to physical therapy, 3 times a day. It's just a shock.
Right. So did you suddenly feel like an older person?
Oh, yeah. Anytime I call my father, who's 73, and we're taking the same medication, I definitely felt a little old.
That does take things away a little bit. So, and when people talk about awareness, they never talk about the transitions that the family had to make. It's
tremendous sacrifice. I'm dad. They're used to seeing me on my feet.
Right.
First now I'm walking with a cane and have to be quiet, because initially when I first came home, the overstimulation of the brain was a lot for me, which caused headaches and different things. I had to adjust the light, even TV. So, to try to tell a 3, 4, 5-year-old to be quiet, and their daddy girls, you can't jump on daddy can't pick you up. That's an adjustment. Right, yes, because they look at that as a negative. Yeah, they looked at it negative, but then they, I could give it to them. They all became Dr. McStuffin. Good thing they watched that, because they hard on me. Daddy, you supposed to be eating that? Come on, Daddy, get up. So they made me get up. Right. They definitely did help in that term.
And for anybody who's just tuned in, May is Stroke Awareness Month, and we're talking to Mr. Lee Stroy, and he's letting us know what we need to be aware of and watch out for as far as having a stroke. So, like we were talking about family, your children had to go through a readjustment. What about your oldest child?
My oldest child had to go through the most because, being 21 at the time, or 19, I'm sorry, she was more in tune with exactly what's going on. And she was scared. Right. She's still scared to this day. It shook her world that this can happen to her dad. Like, wait a minute. And, and she's more conscious of the things that she eats, which I say oddly enough, as I went through, and I'm still in recovery, and it'll be 3 years in December, that the stroke actually saved my life, because it's been the best thing to happen, because not only physically, mentally, I had to rebuild. Right. So it gave me a different perspective on everything, and seeing the change in myself also allows me to see the change and the growth in my marriage and with my children as well. To be like, okay.
So did the family have to go through any counseling?
Well, we did. Me and my wife actually had to go to counseling, and we took our 16-year-old because he seemed like everything was fine. So we took our 16-year-old son to counseling with us as well. And again, the dynamics changed from being a dual income household to a one income household. So with that, it caused a lot of stress. And the thing is, with stroke or anything else, life still happens. So I'm going through these physical therapies, and everything is requiring a copay as well, and bills are piling up where, I had to sell both my vehicles. We had to refinance our mortgage, and that just puts a lot of stress on everything where I wasn't able to drive for 6 months. So having the kids in the house and the things that we take for granted, just running up to the store, that was gone.
Wow. So your wife had to pick up more than
she became the caregiver.
Yes.
And anyone that takes care of anybody understands that that's a great responsibility.
It is.
And, at 35, that's the last thing she was expecting to be was a caregiver.
That's true. Especially for her husband, yeah. That's true. Because you're more in tune to be ready to be a caregiver for your parents, not,
Exactly. That's more, you can swallow that one. You can see that one. But your husband, and just really, we were about to celebrate the holidays. We have family members coming up in town, and come out. But that's the thing. That's the thing with strokes and certain things. You can't tell when it's coming now. Now, you can see the symptoms and the sign, but I didn't go to sleep saying, hey, you know what, I think I'm having a stroke. It doesn't work that way. Now, I know people that had strokes while they were actually awake, and while they were going through that process, they knew that something was going on. They might not have been able to say, hey, I'm having a stroke. I just literally talked to a friend 2 days ago that's 38, never smoked, but he works for the federal government, puts on a lot of stress from the job. He got high-ranking, young man. And he just had a stroke, and he drove to work, and he woke up, and he drove, and his face was drooping. And when he got to the job, they had to send him home. And the one thing when you have a stroke, that gauge of self-awareness is broken. So he's thinking he's fine. And he said he remembers driving, and everybody's blowing the horn at him because he was going like 25 miles per hour. Oh, and they said, now that I think about it, and you're on the highway.
Right. Oh, yes. That would be, that's true. That is true. And by the grace of God, he made it to work. Exactly.
And they sent him straight, and they called an ambulance, and come to find out he had a stroke.
Wow. And more African Americans have strokes than anyone else.
and that's correct. And that's the leading disability in America, because once you have a stroke, it's just like anything else. Not one stroke is the same. And it affects different parts of the brain. So in my case, my stroke was on the right side of my brain, was affecting my left side of my body, which connects to a lot of memory and cognitive skills. So my cognitive skills are kind of off, and my memory, although the long term is outstanding, I just might not remember all the details of an event.
Right.
My short term, I have a problem with going outside the door, keeping the door open, or open up the refrigerator and keeping it open. No matter how much I tell myself to do that, but if somebody calls me or if I drop something, that disconnect occurs. So it's a struggle every day with little things like that. That is you wouldn't notice if you see me. You'll be like, oh, look, he looks great.
Right.
I call it a stroke is something that you can't see a lot of times. Now, sometimes obviously it's apparent, but a lot of times a lot of stroke survivors that walk around that you don't even realize they had a stroke.
So you had to learn to put your short-term memory into your long-term memory.
Exactly. So, how I did that was a lot of reading, they have a lot of cognitive brain activities. But even with that, it's starting over every day.
Yeah.
It's not like a broken leg where you can kind of see the progress that, okay, I know I'm going to heal in a week and 2 weeks and 3 weeks. And by the fourth week, I should have my cast off. And now when you have a stroke, because the brain has to rewire, and sometimes it may not rewire. But, I've heard people that recover 7-8 years later that was not able to walk for that period of time. But just imagine the mental anguish that they go through during that process, thinking that I'm not able to walk again and this is my new life. So it definitely You know, it can definitely affect so many things.
And it's bad to say, but I have to ask that, is the suicide rate high for people with a stroke who don't,
you know what?
Who don't recover the way that they think they should?
That's a outstanding question. I don't know that offhand, but that's something I'll definitely do some research on. But here's what I do know for a fact, another number that stood out. For those ones that are married and had strokes, they say over 70% of them end up in divorce.
Yeah, because it's a lot for a person.
Because it takes a lot, you know, takes a lot. And some of the stories you hear, you know, is tough because it does take a lot. And again, that person has changed too. So, you know, a lot of times people have a problem. And I'm not only talking about physically, that you have to physically care, but also mentally.
Right.
You know, that might not be the same person that you're dealing with. It might be, you know, it might be someone that's more emotional. I mean, I know that I've been a lot more emotional, more, you know, things, everybody's different, but, you know, your brain has been altered.
Wow. But I know it's not the same, but in a way it is. My mother, before she passed away, she had dementia. And I flew home to see her because they had put her in the hospital, so I flew home. And I walked in the door, and my aunt name is Brenda. The first thing she said, Brenda, why are you so late? I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, now how, and I was to myself, I'm like, how do I let her know that I'm not her sister, I'm her child?
Right.
You know, but I realized, and I said that. She goes, no, I don't have any children. I'm like, wow, she's went back before I was born. You know, I'm thinking, I wasn't even born yet, okay. So I just kept up a conversation with her as though I was her sister.
Right.
And after an hour of her talking back and forth, she said, Phyllis, when did you get here? Whoa, okay. You know, like, okay, all right. And it was difficult for me because I had to try to bounce wherever she was going.
Right. It's odd you said that because it's similar in some cases, especially initially early on when I had a stroke. I was saying a lot of things twice, and I still do that, you know, 3 or 4 times. And I do a lot of volunteer work at our local hospitals out here, and that's one of the common things that, you know, we repeat ourselves, and, you know, you tell somebody something because, again, the brain is still trying to rewire, and it's like you just kind of have to be patient, like, oh, yeah, really? You're just like it's the first time you're hearing it.
Right. Have you ever thought of, or has anybody ever mentioned you carrying either your cell phone or a tablet to record certain things that you know you need to remember?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Early on in the beginning, that was definitely one of the tools, and that to speak in the cell phone, and that, you know, that takes you down to another frustration part about it. Like, I'm speaking clearly today, but at that time, you know, I had a hard time speaking clear, so the phone wasn't even recognizing what I was trying to say to it. Right. So I could be like, remind me to call me in the morning, but it was not getting that, and I wasn't able to use one side of my body and trying to type with one hand. So that was frustrating as well. So what I had the doctors do, I had them jot down different notes. So when they came to see me, and let's say if my wife wasn't there or if my family member was in the room, I'll have them write it on the board. Right. Okay. So when they come in, they'll be like, okay, this is what they talked about. This is what we're doing today. Right. Wow. Wow. So when you, when they first gave you your medication, you denied having high blood pressure, so you didn't take it. Yeah, it was a week prior to holidays, and I'm thinking, man, you know, I'm going to eat, and I'm going to drink, and I'm going to have a good time. My family's coming from Atlanta, family coming from Florida. You know, I'm going to start my pressure medication after the holidays. Oh. So, you know, we would never know if I would have started that medication when that happened, because my body now, it's been years of this, because when I look back at it and see that, you know, I'm waking up at the middle of the night sweating and, you know, always running hot, thinking that that's just how I am. No, my blood pressure, my body was talking to me. Mm-hmm. Like you said earlier, your body talks to you, you have to listen to it. And then also, too, I've noticed with doing a lot of different work within the community, we cause a lot of it on ourselves naturally with the stress and not allowing our body to sleep. That's another issue as well. Right. That, you know, we have the people that run, and I got to be on this call and got to go to this meeting and take the kids to here, and now you're only getting 4 hours of sleep, and I'm just going to drink coffee and I'm okay. No. Yeah. That body has to rest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, you're right. And also, people don't know how to leave work at work. You know, so they bring work home. And to me, that's the work. Once I leave work, and I tell everybody, once you leave work there. And also, a lot of people don't build in a day. Like for me, it's Sunday. On Sunday, I really don't talk to anybody. I do things only for myself, you know, but I don't deal with anything going on Sunday. It's my shutdown day, and I'm just doing nothing. And so that's a day that's what I've chose, which is my relaxation time. And you find, I listen to people who 24/7, they're boom, boom, boom. And you wonder, what do you do for yourself? And then they actually look at you and go, what do you mean? And you say, what do you do for yourself? And they give you something they do for themselves, but it's not them. They're talking about, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. Well, that's not what you're doing for yourself.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I hear it all the time. And, too, especially with people that do community work, whether you're teachers, you know, you're taking on a lot of people, different energy, nursing. You're taking on all these situations.
Right.
I would even say during that day, you need to at least find 5 minutes between, you know, as soon as you wake up, allow yourself 10 minutes just to kind of breathe.
Right.
Not just, you know, wake up, get on Facebook, check Instagram, turn on TV, what's the news, let me jump in the shower, now I'm close. You know, you have to allow yourself some moments throughout the day.
Yeah, that's true. Because stress is a leading thing for.
Yeah, stress is just as bad as, you know, that fast food.
Yeah, it is.
And you know, and when you go down that road with the stress, you know, strokes. Now that I'm open, now I'm more prone to possibly having heart attacks down the road. So that stress is the number one thing that people are. So in my case, you know, it was because I was black. It's because my family has a history of high blood pressure. My mother's a diabetic, and my eating habits weren't good, and I was a smoker. But also, I had stress. But also, not knowing all these things, you know, after I had stroke, come to find out I had high cholesterol. I was a diabetic. See, these are things that I didn't even know. You know, because just because your mother's a diabetic doesn't mean necessarily you're going to have it too. But if you don't take care of your body and what you be mindful of what you eat and exercise, then the likelihood of you becoming a diabetic is great. And unfortunately, you don't have any signs of, okay, hey, I got diabetes. So even when I was doing my checkups, it wasn't thorough where they were doing blood work to determine. And that's why I say with this being Stroke Awareness Month, knowing your numbers is the number one thing. Right. Knowing what your sugar level is, knowing what your blood pressure is. You know, because some people go a whole life without realizing that, okay, you know, I got 160 over 100. That's not that bad. Knowing what the numbers are is the biggest thing, too. You can know the numbers, but you got to know, okay, where at your age, your weight, your life, you know, you shouldn't be this high.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I'll say for everybody who's just tuning in, we're talking to who used to be Invincible, Lee Stroy, and he's telling us about Stroke Awareness Month, which is the month of May. And we're going from the interesting point of, I think it's important that we talk to younger people who have strokes rather than older people. Reason being is, it sounds terrible, but young people expect older people to have everything. They always blame, oh yeah, it's because they're old and they used to abuse it. Oh, they're old because whatever. But when it gets to somebody younger, you go, well, wait a minute, hold on, wait. What happened? You know, the key thing is what happened and what can you prevent somebody else from doing? You know, and one is our eating habits, the fast food eating habits. Now, I'm going to say not all fast food is bad, because I can go to any restaurant and get a salad every day and I'm fine. But I'm not going to get that salad every day. I'm going to go get something else. And also, I'll say this. I graduated from a restaurant that has their own college. And everybody should know who that was. But, you know, but the key thing that you learn is I learned how to do more damage to you. I learned that if certain things you order, I can suggestively sell you something else because of what you did. And people think of this. If you came to one of these restaurants and let's say you ordered a double hamburger or whatever, double cheeseburger, and you ordered some fries and a Diet Coke, do you know because you ordered that Diet Coke, I can sell you an apple pie or whatever pie?
Right.